Put your faith in the light.
Hello guys, welcome to another one of my videos. This is Lightblade. And well guys, in this one I have huge news for you. We're getting a massive buff as Retribution Paladins. Not in the way you know them currently, you know, the Herald Retribution Paladin version, but the underused Templar. So, currently Templar is not even bad. That's the main thing. And this buff is saying this is a huge buff is an understatement. This is a massive buff that Templar is getting. Like, numbers here are getting changed by 75% in those things. So you know this is going to make Templar like pop out next week a lot. And I'm guessing this is, I think, over buffing Templar in most situations. But let's talk about what's happening. So the reason they're buffing Templar is because 99% of Retribution Paladin players are playing with Herald in single target raiding situations and in Mythic Plus. This is mostly because, well, Herald is a lot easier to use than Templar. You know, the rotation is basically, you don't change your rotation, you just do the same thing we've been doing since the last expansion, and you're going to be doing most of the time optimal damage. You know, the most annoying part is maybe positioning when you have those lines so you hit the most targets, but the hitbox on them is pretty generous. And also Blizzard implemented something like whenever they just smart cast, you know, whenever your lines appear, they just go to different targets if there are different targets. You don't really have to target too much, or at least I haven't noticed them just going on only one target. So very generous rotation, very easy to use. It just does good single target, it does good cleave damage as well. Now, Templar is a bit more of a clunky build, mostly because of the 5 Holy Power Spender, you know, the big hammer that you drop down. But that big hammer is now getting incredible buffs, so it's now going to be a lot more valuable than it was in the past. Other problems that Templar has is it has conditional damage on AoE parts. This is because Empyrean Hammers requires you to crit, so it does its AoE damage. I'm thinking with these buffs, if we are moving to Templar, Critical Strike is going to have a more important role in terms of AoE damage, and so maybe your stat weights are going to be moved a bit, you know, putting crit a bit more emphasis on that, and reducing things like haste or all those things, you know, because mastery crit probably, or crit mastery, is going to be something like our top stats, and after that you want to get a little bit of haste and then just erase versatility completely from your builds. But yeah, conditional AoE is not good because the Imperial Hammers need to crit to do its damage. Also, the AoE around the little Imperial Hammers when they drop is very small, you know, so things have to be clumped together to do damage. Having said that, Imperial Hammers doesn't say anywhere in the tooltip that it's reduced after X targets, you know, so for what we know, this thing is uncapped AoE, and as long as you can get all your targets in a small place, you can just nuke them down with these hammers. Now, I said in the past that I think Templar is going to supersede eventually Herald because of scaling. You know, once we get more crit and we can guarantee that those little Imperial Hammers do their AoE damage, you know, I was thinking that eventually Templar was going to maybe overtake Herald. But Blizzard is just making that a lot faster with these buffs. So now let's go into the buffs. Now, you probably have been reading all the things that are on your screen here, but I want to talk about each one of these points and how it's going to impact the build. Okay, so the first buff is to Shake the Heavens. Lasts for 10 seconds, was 8 seconds. So this is a massive buff, guys. I know it's only 2 seconds, but it's pretty huge. Shake the Heavens already by its nature can extend itself for around 18 seconds, you know, so with this change and applying the same logic, you're going to have like Shake the Heavens durations for like 22 seconds or something like that. The uptime was already 70 to 75% on a full Mythic Plus key. Now it's probably going to go from 80 to 90% or something like that. Yeah, I'm thinking 90, maybe 95% uptime on Shake the Heavens with these changes. It's just a bit too much. I think most of these buffs are just too powerful. I'm very afraid that they're going to nerf us in the following 2 weeks because of this. You guys know how things are. Whenever Retribution Paladins pop off, Blizzard is very fast in the nerf path with us. Also, the community doesn't like when red is good, so that is also one thing. Yeah, a lot of these buffs are pretty powerful. Shake the Heavens, this one is really impactful. The next one is also massive. Sanctification duration increased to 12 seconds, was 10 seconds. So Sanctification is a buff. Whenever you throw a judgment, your next Imperial Hammers are going to have 10% increased damage, and this multiple applications of this can overlap. So let's say you start doing your rotation, you throw a judgment that's 10% increased damage, Blade of Justice, Wake of Ashes, spend, you throw your Divine Toll to get extra holy power, that's another judgment. Then you can weave extra judgments in between divine resonance because you have like around 10 seconds because of this increased duration on this sanctification buff. You can get 2 extra divine resonance, that's 40% extra damage on impurine hammers, and you can get like an extra weave in of judgment in between those. That's 50% increased damage that you're going to make your impurine hammers do in an opener rotation with divine toll, which is pretty ridiculous. These hammers already hit really hard. Their only like problem was that they are conditional AoE, which means that they have to crit to do AoE, but I don't think that's going to matter if they're doing like so much damage with this increased buff from sanctification. Next up, we have Final Reckoning now increases the damage of Hammer of Light by 30%, was 15%. So this is because, well, they nerfed Final Reckoning to the ground in this expansion, especially for AoE stuff. It only does 30% increased damage to single target abilities and 15 for AoE. And Hammer of Light was coded as an AoE abilities because it hits one target by a big amount and like 4 extra targets by a smaller amount. I say smaller, but it's like 300k hits. it's really big. It technically is an AoE ability, so it was only getting the 15%. So they're changing the code around Hammer of Light, and now it's technically just a single target hit ability. That means that it's going to do massive damage whenever you use Final Reckoning. This is one of the changes I like, mostly because this means that Final Reckoning is going to be the way to go with Hammer of Light, I think, for most situations because of this change. I hate Execution Sentence personally. I only use it because, well, number wise it's the best thing to use at the moment, but I really hate Execution Sentence. I wish they would delete that thing and just replace it with old Light's Decrease, you know, or yeah, just explosions are a lot more fun. But hey, we have it, we have to use it. But this change is good, I like it. It's pretty ridiculous now that the thing is going to do 30% increased damage, because it currently I think it does like 650k hits unbuffed, like with any other multiplicative extra damage. So yeah, this is going to make Hammer of Light hit like a truck, especially with Crusade and Final Reckoning on top of it. Next one is Hammer of Light's main target damage is increased by 25%. Okay, so this is another one of those changes that I say it's incredibly ridiculous. This is a really huge number. Like I said, unbuffed Hammer of Light has like 650k base damage. With this, it's going to do like what, 800k unbuffed damage. You add on top of that 30% from Final Reckoning. You add on top of that 30% from Crusade. You add on top of that extra damage because it's a spender from I don't remember the name, but we have buff. Blessing of Dawn, you know, that's 20% increased damage on top of that. So there's so much damage. Oh yeah, Judgment on top of that. Yeah, Judgment buff also works because it's a holy power spender. So there's so many multiplicative damage that you can add on top of that, and you're giving it 25% extra damage. Blizzard is crazy. I'm very scared of what they're going to do to Red Paladins in the following weeks, because like I said, they're very fast on the nerf mat for Retribution Paladins. I think this is just too much of a buff. In my opinion, I would have made this like a 10%, maybe 15% increased damage, but not 25. And the next change is also not going to help our case if we get like incredibly powerful in the meta. Hammer of Light's secondary target damage increased by 75%. I said that the damage on secondary targets is small, but that small damage I think is like 300k. So increase that by 75%. Yeah, that's a lot of damage on cleave, you know. And how dungeons are played currently, you know, you can't play huge packs because you die because of how much damage mobs are doing in dungeons. Most tanks are playing pack to pack. Templar just fits perfectly there with these extra damage numbers. But I'm afraid these numbers are just too high. I'm really scared of what's going to happen to us in the next following 2 weeks if we pop off too hard. After that, we have Light's Deliverance, now triggers at 50 stacks. It was 60, so this is just going to make your Shake the Heavens permanently be on you, because this Light's Deliverance makes you, whenever you reach 50 stacks now, you're going to have a free Hammer of Light, and Shake the Heavens procs from Hammer of Light usages. So in ideal situations, you are going to use your first Hammer of Light with your Wake of Ashes. After that, you spend, and by the time your Shake the Heavens is going to fall off, you probably are going to have an extra trigger of Hammer of Light because of Light's Deliverance, and you can just keep extending your Shake the Heavens to infinity. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I think this is just another over buffing. I think it was just fine at 60 because they're already buffing the Shake the Heavens duration. Why are they buffing Light's Deliverance now? So we have like permanent Shake the Heavens. I think it's just too much. Let's go to the next buff. So Undisputed Ruling grants 15% haste for 8 seconds. It was 12% haste for 6 seconds. This is just a lot better than, for example, the buff that Herald of the Sun gets, especially because Herald requires different targets to get the buff, the haste buff. If there's only one thing, I think it only gets like 5%. If there's a lot of things, obviously it gets more haste. I think it's 5 per target, or it was 3. I don't really remember, but this haste buff just overtakes Herald by a mile. It's just huge, especially considering that haste is multiplicative in its nature. So it's not only 15% that we're getting, guys. This 15% number is probably around 20% when you add the crusade on top of that and our just baseline haste, because like I said, haste is multiplicative, and you're always going to use this Undisputed Ruling buff whenever you have crusade. Most of the times, you know, exceptions are whenever you get like the proc of Hammer of Light from Light's Deliverance, but yeah, for the most part it's going to be paired together with crusade, and it's just a big number of haste that you're going to get for 8 seconds. It's a massive buff. It's going to like start your rotation extremely strong. I'm thinking a lot of red paladins are just going to die on opener whenever you're using Templar next week because of so much damage that you're going to be doing. The next buff is to Wrathful Descent. Now it deals 125 of the Imperial Hammer damage to nearby enemies. Just to put that in context, this started off as 70% damage whenever we were doing beta. It's now at 125% extra damage. That's a huge number. This thing already hits hard at 100%, but 125 with the stats we are getting now, you know, the fast rate of proc that we can give it with Crusade, and now we have enough crit to kinda guarantee the hits are going to be AoE-ish. And yeah, this thing is massive. I'm thinking like Imperial Hammer, if not the top damage in Mythic Plus, is going to be like the second top damage, followed like I think only Divine Storm is going to be ahead of it. Yeah, I think that the damage distribution is going to be Divine Storm, Imperial Hammer, and Hammer of Light, something like that in terms of your damage. Obviously after that probably Blade of Justice or something like that. But yeah, this is a massive buff. Like I said before, I'm scared these buffs are just too much. I think they went too wild on the buffs, and we're probably going to see some nerfs in the following weeks on these numbers. Red's going to take over in Mythic Plus, especially with these. And the final one is to Imperial Hammer now benefits from oh man, they're really gonna make Imperial Hammer benefit from Penitence and Burn to Ash. They're crazy, man. These are huge. Yeah, these are crazy buffs. So Burn to Ash is the extra 20%, I think, extra damage that dots get whenever you wake up ashes. So that's another multiplicative effect that they're putting on Templar, you know. And Penitence is the thing that also increases dot damage. So basically they're making Imperial Hammers act like a dot effect, which is just giving it too much damage. Yeah, what this is, it solidifies it. You know, Imperial Hammer is either your top damage on Mythic Plus, or it's going to be like your second top damage. No questions asked. This is just too many buffs, guys. I'm really fearful of what is going to happen with us in the following 2 weeks. Yes, next week we're going to pop off. I'm thinking it's like 100% chance that we're going to be using Templar in both single target and Mythic Plus. Be careful when you open with Templar. You're just going to explode yourself if the tank doesn't have the same level of gear of you, or doesn't have aggro on the mobs, like really hard aggro on them. Yeah, it's going to be a crazy week. Red's going to take over, guys. These are huge buffs for Templar. Currently, I think Templar just is ahead of... Herald is ahead of Templar around like 5%, 4% extra damage in Mythic Plus dungeons. With these changes, I think Templar is going to be a solid 4%, 4 to 5% ahead of Herald in Mythic Plus situations, and in raiding it's just going to be better than it, you know. Currently, like I said, I think at the start of the video, Templar is ahead of Herald in single target situations. It's just people don't like to use it because it's a bit clunky. But now with these changes, it's going to be just too far ahead from Herald to people not use it in raiding situations. So yeah, these are all huge buff, guys, and well, that's going to be the end of the video. So it's ironic that the saying, you know, don't fly too close to the sun, Herald is not going to get us nerfed, but it's Templar what is probably going to do it. Anyways, guys, let me know down in the comments, what do you think about these buffs? Are you afraid like me of what's going to happen to Retribution Paladins after we take over in the following weeks? And well, if you enjoy my content, leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone.